Hello everyone, my name is Juan Nunez and I will be doing a presentation on running gait training and how it improves the outcome at United States Air Force Basic Military Training. Listed below are people who have helped write this article as well as conduct this experiment, presented by yours truly. Here I'm going to play a brief overview video of what basic military training is like for the United States Air Force.
My name is Colonel Jeff Pixley. I'm the commander of basic military training. Thank you for joining the United States Air Force. Thank you for raising your hand and promising to give of yourself, to sacrifice, to do something that most Americans never do. Be better every day. Be better. You probably want to know how to be successful in basic military training. Fight for yourself. Don't give up on yourself. And when you're about to, work with each other. Lean on each other because you'll be successful when you are a team.
Remember why you are here. Remember those people that came before you. Everything that you do needs to come with a passion and a vigor that is unmatched.
When you leave basic military training, you're going to understand how to wear the uniform. You're going to understand what it is to live by the core values, and you're going to know the value of your teammates. If you live up to my expectations, you'll be here. 7 weeks from today, you'll be about to graduate.
Next, I'll give a brief background as to why we would need to focus on gait retraining with basic trainees. Musculoskeletal injuries in the United States Air Force account for nearly 22 million in annual expenses. I'll get into that later in the presentation. This is pretty important considering how much money the United States spends on armed forces, and to think about you have to spend that much money annually just to take care of injuries that can be prevented. Running is a common source of injury in the 7.5 week course, and bone stress injuries make up nearly 40% of diagnosed injuries at BMT. They can delay training completion, carry risk of reoccurrence, and in worst case scenarios, even termination. Who would conduct said training, or who had conducted this training? It was done by a group known as Viper, the Versatile Injury Prevention and Embedded Recondition Program. Their goal was to integrate sports medicine and focus on lowering barriers of medical involvement, retrain the running gait in trainees with running-related injuries, correct various characteristics associated with running-related injuries, also known as RRIs, and provide running economy insights into preventative interventions. The way that this experiment was started, they would start with a weekly arrival of approximately 800 trainees at Lackland, which would be divided into 8 training squadrons. A quasi-experimental design with 2 control groups and 2 intervention groups was put into place. Your first group, which would consider squadrons 3 through 5A, received mass gait training in their first week of training, with 2 control groups being established. The first control group A would consist of 5 other squadrons, 1A, 2A, 6 through 8A, while control B would be from the same squadron of the original training group, 3B through 5B. Neither of these groups received training. And then your final intervention group would receive training their entire time, which is 1 through 8C. Viper sports medicine staff tracked outcomes for control and intervention of the squadrons that were involved, including timing of injury presentation, referral to medical hold, and early separation from service. Introduction to the embedded Viper sports medicine clinics was provided to all the trainees, promoting awareness and access to care. Mass Gait training sessions were conducted by Viper sports medicine staff in the first week of training, lasting approximately 45 minutes for each flight of trainees. Viper staff remained in constant contact with squadron leadership throughout the time. All groups received clinical treatment by Viper Sports medical staff solely during their time, with individual gait retraining available if indicated, and clinical resources were recorded, or encounters, were recorded for any musculoskeletal concerns requiring medical evaluation. Here's a brief breakdown of how each group was broken down. The original Gait group was approximately 2,200 trainees. Control A, which was spread out amongst 5 other squadrons, was approximately 4,000. Control B was about 2,000, and the fully gated trained group was about 6,000. Here's a breakdown of each squadron. 3 squadrons for the first gate trained, 5 for Control A, 3 for Control B, and 8 for full gate. And there's approximately how many trainees per squadron. And here we have the results of the experiment. As you can see here, the clinical encounters increased for those that were gait trained, seeing as they had more access to medical staff. Gait trained versus the Control A showed a 24% increase of clinical encounters versus group Control B. It showed a 16% increase. Between the two controls, there was no increase reported. And those who were fully gait trained showed a 19% increase versus the original gait trained group. As far as medical hold, there were no reported increases, significant increases at least. And when it came to separation, as you would expect, those who were gait trained showed a decrease in separation, with the original gait group versus Control A showing a 22% lower separation percentage versus Control B. It was 23%. Surprisingly, Control B showed an 8% decrease compared to Control A. And those who were fully gated, obviously being the highest, showed a 32% increase when even compared to the original group. Here we have the results summarized. For clinical errors, gait groups showed a higher risk of clinical encounters. Again, as stated before, is because they had more opportunity to present their issues to medical staff, with full having the highest RR. For medical holds, there was no significant reporting. And then for separation, as previously stated, those who are gait trained essentially had a much lower risk of being separated because they were able to attend to their injuries. What can be determined? Trainees who receive gait training experienced fewer delays in their training and achieved higher graduation rates despite seeking medical care at higher rates and earlier in their training compared to their counterparts. The increased medical care seeking was likely due to expected soreness and discomfort as trainees adapted to new movement patterns and running forms. While there was an increase in sports medicine encounters in the gated group, this should not be viewed negatively. It likely reflects the adoption of new run forms and the most critical outcomes in basic military training improved in the intervention group. The reduction in relative risk for medical hold and separation per clinic hours, or per clinic encounters, supports this interpretation. In basic military training, trainees too injured to continue training are placed in medical hold until they recover, incurring a cost of $384 per day. Separating a trainee too injured results in a loss in approximately $55,000. Additionally, attrition negatively impacts the United States Air Force recruiting and training pipeline. The positive impact of gait retraining in reduced medical holdover referrals and separation suggests that long-term ramifications of lost training time and attrition can be mitigated through prevention-based gait retraining. Based on the results, it is estimated that BMT-wide implementation of the Gait retraining program would lead to 2.3 million in annual cost avoidance for the United States Air Force. This program was executed with minimal additional cost, and its excellent return on investment leads to full adoption, which is what I was hinting at earlier in my presentation. And overall, we would just save much more money just retraining how you run. How is this connected to our class? In Chapter 2, we went over continuous movement, and this experiment goes over the action of running, which is continuous movement with no end until it's forced to do so. Chapter 4, we went over attention and performance. The focus and analysis on the gait of someone running will provide information needed to make corrective measures in order to improve performance. Here we have a list of options as to how we can enhance the techniques of gait training moving forward. We can refine gait retraining techniques for enhanced effectiveness. We can develop personalized gait retraining programs based on individual needs. And we can investigate the most effective teaching methodologies for large-scale implementation, just to name a few. Next, I have limitations of this experiment. I'm not going to go over the entire list. I'll go over a few. Study duration doesn't assess long-term effects beyond training period, so it doesn't really go in depth as to how, once the trainee left basic training, how they were affected, and if it was even beneficial, or if they were even continuous with what they had learned. Self-reported data may introduce bias, so those who were reporting certain things might want to make themselves look better, knowing that they're part of an experiment. And external factors, including trainees' motivation and compliance, may have influenced results. Not to mention, you have external factors such as rank or weather conditions, physical fitness of the overall trainee that could hinder results as well. And why this is personal? This is personal to me because, as you can see, I served in the United States Air Force. Served 6 years. I was stationed in Hawaii and Florida, at Pearl Harbor, Hickam, as some people know about Hawaii. And in Florida, I was stationed at a Special Forces base in the Panhandle. I deployed twice. I was in Turkey/Jordan, and then my last deployment was in Syria. And I was an intelligence analyst working with drone-operated missions. Essentially, I provided ISR for our troops in need. I hope you guys enjoyed my presentation. You guys have a blessed one.